Hi, welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David.
I'm Stefan.
And today we're going to be looking at all the white cards in Core Set 2019.
So this guide will help you evaluate these cards for limited, like draft or sealed, like your upcoming pre-release where you get 6 boosters of the core set.
Yeah, and we're going to be evaluating these cards according to our patented 3-tiered system. That is, Tier 1, these are your bombs, these are your unconditional removal cards, these are the cards that are going to be winning you the game. Essentially, if you pull these cards, it forces you into playing this color. It should in either case. Then we've got Tier 2 cards. These cards are also very good. If you're already in this color, they're auto-included, and if you pull a couple of these colors, it forces you also into that color. Then we have the Tier 3 cards. These cards are adequate. These are your filler cards. So if once we put our deck together and we're still missing a few 2-drops, maybe a 4-drop and a 5-drop, we're going to be looking at the filler cards to make sure that we have a nice and smooth mana curve. And all the rest of the cards, we're going to put them aside either because they're really bad or simply too situational. So without further ado, let's have a look at all the commons first.
Our first common of the set is Wing Falcon. 1 mana, a 1/2 bird with flying. We don't really like our powered flyers or creatures in general, so I just put it aside.
Yeah, it's funny how they've really been trying to push the 1 mana creatures lately. You know, before you get a 1/1 for 1 mana, then all of a sudden for a while we could get 1/2s for 1 mana, and now we're getting 1/2s with evasion, in this case flying for 1 mana. So I really see that they're really trying to push the envelope, but it's just not enough for me to want to include it in a limited deck. Next card, Take Vengeance for 1 and a white. So for 2 mana, we get a sorcery that allows us to destroy target tapped creature. This is Tier 2. This is conditional removal, but the condition can be met so easily because people are going to be wanting to turn their creature sideways when they're using their abilities, when they're attacking us, and then we're going to be able to use this for a measly 2 mana. That is a great deal.
Yeah, it's just insane that it's only 2 mana and you destroy any creature and it's just they want to attack anyways.
Yeah.
Daybreak Chaplain. 1 and a white, it's a 1/3 human cleric with lifelink. Like I said, we don't really like our 1 power toughness powered creatures, but this one is exception because the 3 toughness will block anything. Well, at least all the 2/2s and everything, so it's a good filler.
Yeah, and it actually, for me, it brings it a little bit over the edge because of the lifelink, which means that not only is it now not interesting for your opponents to attack with their 2/2s because you have a 1/3, but now it would make it even more disadvantageous for them because you're also actually gaining life whenever they attack. Then we move on to Oreskos Swift Claw for 1 and a white. So for 2 mana, we get a 3/2 Cat Warrior. Now, once again, we do this every single set. I like my 3/1s for 2 mana. Stefan does not like his 3/1s for 2 mana. The reason why I like them is because if it comes in early, you can attack aggressively, dealing a ton of damage. And if they're playing a late game, if they don't have their 2-drops, if they don't have their 3-drops, they're really taking a ton of damage to the face. And additionally, on the block, later on, it can deal with 3 toughness creatures. And sometimes you'll have 3 3s or 4 3s. And then your 2 mana card is able to trade with their 3 or 4 mana card, which means that I think it's actually quite an interesting card to have in your deck.
Yeah, and to be honest, a lot of 3/1s have done a lot of damage to me.
Yeah.
But still...
Stefan doesn't like the 1 toughness, which I understand.
I really don't. Yeah. Cavalry Duel Master, 1 and a white, it's a 2/1 human knight, and when he enters the battlefield, target creatures +2/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. I don't like my 1 toughness, but I like this one actually, because when he enters the battlefield, +2/+0 and first strikes actually a lot. And it will do so much, you just get 2, it will trade up, or just do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So Tier 3, a good filler.
Next, we have Revitalize for 1 and a white. So for 2 mana, it's an instant that allows us to gain 3 life and draw a card. What do we say about these kind of cards? Sure, it replaces itself, but the fact is it still takes up a slot in your deck, which could be filled up with something a lot more useful, such as maybe a creature that can actually do something. And the gaining of 3 life is irrelevant. So we're going to put that one aside really quickly.
Night's Pledge, 1 and a white, enchantment aura, enchant creature get +2/+2. It's really basic. We don't like auras. Put it aside.
Yeah, an aura, because of the fact that it allows your opponents to 2-for-1 you, which means that if you put it on a creature, they remove the creature, you lost 2 cards, they only lose 1 card. Auras need to be quite good in order to be worth it, and usually they need to already get enough value out of them on the turn that you use them, because you cannot expect them to stick around for much longer than that. Mighty Leap is next for 1 and a white. It's an instant that gives target creature +2/+2 and flying until the end of turn. Now this is tier 3. This is a great combat trick. When you don't have enough unconditional removal, then you see if you can include enough conditional removal. If you don't have enough conditional removal, you're going to go onto your combat tricks. And this is a very solid combat trick, can be used both defensively, but also really nicely offensively, because you can use it. The evasion allows a creature to get through, which maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, you have to use it before blockers, though, because if it's blocked, even though it gains flying, it's still blocked.
Correct.
And I think I like these kind of things more than enchantments, because even though enchantments stick around, it's instant speed, so you can just play it whenever. And that surprise factor is what pushes these things better than enchantments.
But the reason why surprise is good, which is why non-surprise is not good, is because a surprise allows you to kill a creature. That is why we see it as one of the 3 tiers when it comes to removal: unconditional, conditional, and combat trick, because of the fact that you play this, or sorry, you attack with a creature, they block with it, or they attack and you block with it, and then instant speed, you're playing this, and now all of a sudden they lost a creature. And that is essentially why you're using the combat tricks. Usually not just to get an extra 2 damage in. You're going to be, I mean, you would want to use the extra 2 damage in if that wins you the game. Yeah. Otherwise, try and use it to remove one of your opponent's creatures when they don't expect it.
Yeah. Next one, Loxodon Linebreaker. 2 and a white. It's a 3/2 elephant soldier. It's tier 3. It's a decent body.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a cool elephant. Trusty Pack Beast for 2 and a white. So for 3 mana, we get a 2/3 beast. Now this body is already fine for what we're paying for, so we're happy with that. And when it enters the battlefield, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Now this is usually not going to have a target, which means that we can just see it as a vanilla creature, as a 2/3 for 3, and I'm happy with that. That's a fine filler card.
Yeah, I like my 2/3s more than my 3/2s.
Yeah.
Pegasus Corsair, 2 and a white. It's a 1/3 Pegasus with flying, and when he attacks another target attacking creature you control gains flying at the end of turn. So that's really cool, because a 1/3 flyer is already pretty nice because you can block everything, and getting anything in the air with it is so insane. So good, give something else evasion. Tier 2, I always want to play this.
Yeah, if I've got a couple of these, that pushes me into white super hard, because early, and also another one of those ways that we evaluate cards depending on how good they are is it good early and is it good late? And if it's both good early and late, it's got functionality in all states of the game, which makes it very strong. And this one, early, comes in early. It blocks all the 2/2s. It's fine. You're not using this to attack and deal 1 point damage. You're blocking those 2/2s in even the evasion creatures you can block with it. And late game, you send it along with your 6/6 trampler, and all of a sudden you've got a 6/6 flying trampler, and that's going to end game super fast.
Yeah, it's a really strong Pegasus to hold that 6/6.
Then we have Invoke the Divine for 2 and a white. It's an instant that allows us to destroy target artifact or enchantment, and we're going to gain 4 life. Once again, this is a very situational card, and you shouldn't put this in your main deck.
Luminous Bonds, 2 and a white, enchantment aura, enchant creature can't attack or block. You play it on an opponent's creature, they can't do anything anymore except for activate abilities. The tier 2, because it doesn't unconditionally remove it, but still it gets rid of a creature actually.
If you're in white, it's an auto include.
Just play it, yeah. Tier 2.
Star-Crowned Stag is next for 3 and a white. So for 4 mana, it's a 3/3 elf. So for 4 mana, 3/3. That body's fine. Yeah. We're happy with that body. And additionally, when this creature attacks, we're going to tap target creature defending player controls. That is insanity, because essentially it is removal every single turn for whatever is the worst thing your opponent has. So it's not even... Sorry, the best thing. Yeah, the worst thing for you. So that is, of course, insane, versatile, good body, tier 2, always included. If you're white, got a couple of these cards, then I'm going to be playing white as well.
Gallant and Cavalry. 3 and a white, it's a 2/2 human knight with vigilance, and when he enters the battlefield, you create another 2/2 white knight, so you get 2 of them. 2 bodies, 2/2s over 2 bodies. It's okay. Tier 3, decent filler. They have vigilance. That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
But I don't really like it that much, but it's still a good card.
It's just a fine filler,
Yeah.
you know? It's easier to attack with a 4/4 than with 2/2/2s, so that's something you got to take into consideration. Dwarven Priest is next for 3 and a white. We've got a 2/4 Dwarf Cleric, so it's already the body's fine. This is the Pillar Field Ox body, 2/4 for 4 mana, and that's very decent always. Always does a lot of work. And whenever it enters the battlefield, we're going to gain 1 life for each creature we control. Okay, so we might gain a couple points of life. That's nothing to write home about. It's also not a downside. So in principle, this is actually a very solid filler, and do not underestimate that 4 toughness and that 2 power is actually going to be able to not only dissuade all the 2/2s from attacking, but also make sure that they can't attack with a 3/3 and a 2/2, because then they don't know what's going to happen, and it really makes it very difficult for your opponent to attack into you when you got a creature like this.
Yeah, so good filler. Inspired Charge, 2 and 2 white, instant. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. Put it aside because it really depends on how many creatures you have, and if you don't have any creatures, it won't do anything. And it's still 4 mana, so that's actually still a lot of mana to invest. So I think putting aside.
Yeah, this is a card you say, oh, but I might have 6, you know, I might be bored, so I might have 6 creatures, and of course then it becomes insane. But the problem is, what about the times when you've been removing each other's stuff and you both only have 1 creature, for example? You'd much rather have that 2 mana instant combat trick. It will serve you much better than something like this. Yeah. Angel of the Dawn is next for 4 and a white, so for 5 mana, it's a 3/3 angel with flying, and whenever it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+1 and vigilance until the end of turn. This is lovely. This is tier 2. This is auto-including white. We've got our evasion. 3/3 in the air is quite decent. You know, the only thing really bigger is going to be the 4/4s, and nothing really gets bigger than that. So 3/3 is actually really decent in the air. It's going to be closing games fast. And additionally, when it comes in late game, should you be board stalled and you do have a lot of creatures, that +1/+1 and vigilance not only allows you to attack easier, but also keeps your creatures untapped to be able to block with them next turn. So it does a lot of stuff.
It is everything you need. Knight of the Tusk, 4 and 2 white. It's a 3/7 human knight with vigilance. It will not die. But will it do enough? And I don't think so. Just put it aside. It's 6 mana, which means you get it super late. And then it's only 3 damage, which can be blocked by a 2/4 or something. So don't play it.
Think about your opponent having, you know, anything with toughness 4. They could have a 4/4, they're playing green, but in white they could also have a 2/4. And then what happens is you can't attack with it anymore, and blocking might not even be an issue, because if as soon as they have 1 flyer, they could just poke at you with that 2/2 flyer every time, and you're not actually doing anything. And so this is a typical card. At 6 mana, you want to be doing something substantial, which people have to answer to be able to still be able to steal the game away from you, and this just doesn't do enough, I feel.
I don't think so either.
No. All right, those are the commons. Let's have a look at the uncommons. The first of our uncommons is Leonin Vanguard. For 1 white mana, we get a 1/1 cat soldier that states that at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures, then this card is going to get +1/+1 until the end of turn, and we're going to gain 1 life. Now, basically, this thing's going to be a 1/1 for a long time, and then later on, after jumping through the hoops, and if there's no removal, then late game is going to be a 2/2 that gains us 1 life every single turn. That is just simply not enough. It doesn't do anything early. It doesn't do anything late. It's a typical card example of a card that only works maybe perhaps in Constructed, where you want some way that you can gain life every single turn, but other than that, just put it aside. In Limited, it has no place.
And it's not even a 2/2 when it's blocking.
No.
So the next one is Novice Knight. It's also a 1 mana card. It's a 2/3 human knight with Defender. And as long as Novice Knight is enchanted or equipped, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Which means you want to enchant it or equip it. And as we said, we don't really want to use Auras. So put it aside.
Yeah, the chance of you having both this card and that piece of equipment that is actually useful is just too small. Otherwise, it's just sitting there doing nothing. Ajani's Welcome is next for single white mana. It's an enchantment that states that whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, we're going to gain 1 life. Once again, that is simply not enough. Gaining 1 life incidentally, gaining you a couple of life over the course of the game. It doesn't even count your opponent's creatures, just your own creatures, and that is simply not going to have enough impact on the game. So it should not merit a card slot in your deck.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of cards gaining life, but it doesn't do anything on the board, and that's what the most important thing is.
If you want to be gaining life, then use lifelink creatures.
Yeah. Aegis of the Heavens, 1 and a white, instant. Target creature gets +1/+7 until end of turn. I think I like any other combat trick better. The +1/+2 power is relevant. +1 is not really that relevant. And the 7 toughness, yeah, you won't die, but is it worth it? No. Just put it aside.
Exactly. Ajani's Pride Mate is next for 1 and a white. It's a 2/2 cat soldier, and it says that whenever we gain life, we're going to get we're going to put a +1/+1 counter on this card. Now it's tier 3 because for 2 mana it's a 2/2, and that's fine. That's okay filler. And then should you have a way to gain life because you have a lifelink creature or some other card that actually gives you life that's useful, then it only becomes better. But don't feel bad about playing this just as a 2/2 for 2 with the potential upside later on. But I wouldn't recommend you start throwing in all the gain 1 life cards just because you have this card, because you won't have enough of them to actually make an impact.
Yeah, and you need both of them at the same time to be able to get anything out of it, so just don't. Militia Bugler, 2 and a blue, 2 and a white. I always go too fast. 2 and a white, 2/3 human soldier with vigilance, and when he enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 2 or less from them and put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom in a random order. It comes in, looks for a small creature, but vigilance. It isn't really that exciting, but the body is good enough for to be a filler.
Yeah. I mean, a 2/3 with vigilance for 3 mana is fine, with the potential of replacing itself with a card.
Yeah, I mean, searching for a small creature is not really what you're looking for, so that's why it isn't a tier 2.
Yeah. Then we move on to Make a Stand for 2 and a white. It's an instant that gives our creatures +1/+0 and indestructible. Now this is tier 3. This is an excellent combat trick. This does so much more. It boosts our power. It protects our creatures. This is something that definitely would have a place in any deck I'm building because it does so much. It goes wide, but you can also use it as one creature to protect your bomb, for example. And if you go wide, it helps you in that respect. So definitely tier 3, solid combat trick. I'm very happy to play this.
Yeah, it's all creatures, and that's really nice.
Yeah.
Shieldmare, 1 and 2 white. It's a 2/3 horse, and Shieldmare can't be blocked by red creatures, and when he enters the battlefield or becomes target of a spell or ability opponents controls, you gain 3 life. Not that relevant. It's a 2/3 for 3, which is pretty decent, so tier 3.
Yeah, it is. I would recommend, as we always do with these limited decks, try and go for 2 colors. I think that's usually the sweet spot. You're gonna make sure you're not mana screwed. You're gonna be okay, and you can play your double pipped creatures and spells actually. Once you start going 3 colors, then something like this becomes much more difficult to play it on turn 3, for example, which is where it's most relevant. And late game, it starts to lose its value a bit.
Yeah, that's really important. When you're building a deck with the mana cost, like David said, you have to be really careful about these 2 pips on the
low mana creatures. Yeah.
So if you have something else, just play that.
Yeah. Aether Shield Artificer is next for 3 and a white. It's a 3/3, so for 4 mana, 3/3, that body's good. That's fine. We're happy with that. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, target artifact creature you control gets +2/+2 and indestructible until the end of turn. So if we're going artifact tribal, sure, if you can pull it off, then this is a very strong card. Realistically, we're not going to be having too many artifact creatures, so I would not try and judge it on that merit. I would just see it, is it a 3/3 for 4? Yes, it's fine to be putting it in that slot as a filler.
Yeah, exactly. Heromancer's Cage, 3 and a white. It's enchantment. When he enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent's controls until Heromancer's Cage leaves the battlefield. Tier 1, unconditional removal. Opponents will most likely not be playing enchantment removal, so that will be safe. Just tier 1.
Yeah, it just hits anything you want.
Yeah.
That is unconditional. Then we move on to Knightly Valor for 4 and a white. So for 5 mana, it's an aura. We're going to be enchanting a creature. That creature is going to get +2/+2 in Vigilance. And we're also going to put a 2/2 white knight creature token with Vigilance onto the battlefield. I'll put it aside. I think the +2/+2 is not enough to merit the 5 converted mana cost. Also, the Vigilance, I don't think is in effect. You know, if it would be First Strike, that already makes it better. I think Vigilance is one of the less interesting abilities that they could have tacked onto this. And just the 2/2 body at the point in time when we're playing this, which is turn 5 or later, is I don't think is going to be making much of an impact either anymore. So we're going to put that one aside.
Yeah. Herald of Faith, 3 and 2 white. It's a 4/3 angel with flying. And when he attacks, you gain 2 life. That's actually really nice, the attacking that you gain life. But even without that ability, the rest is already good enough for tier 2.
Yeah, this is a card that I see winning games.
Yeah.
Put this down on turn 5. I mean, we've seen stuff like Serra Angel, which also has 4 power. These cards really, they have to be answered or they really kill you in a couple of turns. And it really goes that fast. And of course, the fact that it's 2 pips is not so bad because when you're at 5 mana already, there's a bigger chance that you'll be able to have those 2 sources of white. That is the last of the uncommons. Let's have a look at the rares.
Our first rare is Isolate. A white instant exile target permanent with converted mana cost 1. Which means it's not gonna do anything. So just put it aside.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what this would hit in limited. Alright, Sun Cleanser for 1 and a white. So for 2 mana, it's a 1/4 human cleric. And when it enters the battlefield, we're either going to remove all counters from target creature and it won't be able to get any more counters, or we're going to remove all counters from an opponent and they also won't be able to get any more, as long as Sun Cleanser stays on the battlefield. Now you may think, okay, this is not really relevant in limited. However, for 2 mana, we get a 1/4, and that is actually an okay body because we're also okay with 1/3s for 2. So in that sense, it's still just a filler card. So don't feel bad about putting it in on your 2 slot.
I'm really surprised about that body for some reason. Okay, it's a rare, but still.
Yeah.
A random 1/4 for 2.
Yeah, it still works though.
Yeah, it does.
Still gonna do stuff in limited. Just
I like
the
it.
body. Yeah.
Remorseful Cleric, 1 and a white. It's a 2/1 spirit cleric with flying, and you can sacrifice it to exile all cards from target player's graveyard, which will not be really relevant in limited, but it's a flyer, so tier 3.
Yeah, it's still gonna do damage, and that once again now we got the 2 damage in the air, and now all of a sudden I'm happy to include it. You know, if it would have just been 1 power, not happy. 2 power, now all of a sudden we're making a difference.
Yeah. And if someone would do something with graveyard, then you still have that option to sacrifice it.
Yeah, with upside. Then we have Mentor of the Meek for 2 and a white. It is a 2/2 human soldier, and it states that whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, we can pay 1 mana and then draw a card. Now, of course, in other formats, this card is a powerhouse. In limited, however, it is also still tier 2. Why? Because early game, it comes in still 2/2 for 3 mana, which means it's okay. And later on, it allows us to turn those low-powered creatures that we don't have any use anymore late game. It just allows us to turn those into cards. So it allows us to get deeper into our removal and our bombs.
It's kind of all the things you want to do. You want to play creatures, you want to draw cards, and this will help you play creatures and draw cards.
Yeah.
So such a good card.
Perfect.
Valiant Knight, 3 and a white. It's a 3/4 human knight, and other knights you control have +1/+1. This is already pretty decent. But for 3 and 2 white, knights you control gain double strike until end of turn, which means himself too. All the other knights, not really that relevant. You probably won't have any. Even without it, it's a tier 2 card because 3 power that can be double striked is so good.
Yeah.
And you choose when.
Yeah, there's a good chance that you'll be able to do this on the turn that it attacks for the very first time, because let's say turn 4, this comes in earliest. Next turn, if you don't miss your land drop, it's going to be, you're going to have 5 mana. You attack with it. Now, all of a sudden, as we've discussed already before we started filming, we of course discussed all these cards. Stefan pointed out that with they're going to have a big difficulty blocking this creature, because anything that is 3 toughness will just die instantly, no matter how much power it has. And anything that they block with anything with toughness 3 would die instantly, and anything even up to toughness 6 would also have the potential of dying.
Yeah.
So that means that there's a lot of stuff that they really can't block without losing it.
Exactly, and then you have to think about, do I want to trade? But then again, if you don't want to do anything, you don't have to pay it, you just play something else. So it's all in your hand, and that's what makes this so powerful.
Yeah, the fact that it's instant speed is not to be underestimated. Leonin War Leader is next for 2 and 2 white. It is a 4/4 cat soldier, so this is actually really aggressively costed, so a 4/4 for 4. And whenever it attacks, we're going to put 2 1/1 cat creature tokens with lifelink tapped and attacking. Now this is insane. We're going to put this at tier 1. This is a card that wins games. Comes in, the next turn we're attacking with it. 4/4 is very difficult to deal with. We haven't seen a lot of stuff that can really block it efficiently and survive. And on top of that, we've got another 2 creatures, and people are going to want to chump block those with their 2/2s, which means they're not using it to block this thing, because why? If they don't, then next turn we're going to have not only those 2, but we're going to have another 2, and then we're going to have 4, and then we're going to have 6. So it's going to keep on growing exponentially. And even if they do block, we're gaining 2 life every single time if they block them. So it's super, super strong.
Yeah, this will go out of hand so fast. Ajani's Last Stand, 2 and 2 white. Enchantment: whenever a creature or planeswalker you control dies, you may sacrifice Ajani's Last Stand. If you do, create a 4/4 white avatar creature token with flying. When a spell or ability opponents controls costs you, discard this card. If you control planes, create a 4/4 white avatar creature token with flying. If someone makes you discard this, you get a 4/4. Probably not gonna happen. If you play this, something dies, you get a 4/4 flying. It's pretty good because they don't really want to kill your things anymore, because a 4/4 flying is one of the biggest thing they will see. So it will make things pretty awkward.
Yeah, I think that the threat of this being on the battlefield is such an insurance policy that you're building for the rest of the board, which means that not even the 4/4 flyer is going to be winning the game, but the fact that they're playing around to not give you the 4/4 flyer, and that's going to give you enough of an advantage to get through and kill stuff.
And we normally say this is enchantment, it comes on the table, it doesn't do anything, but the threat is enough.
It does do something. You've put insurance onto the battlefield.
It doesn't really change the board state.
It doesn't change the board state.
So that's why the threat in itself is just good enough to make it.
It does change the board state, because all of a sudden now your board has an insurance, so it changes the way that the board was.
I guess.
Yeah. Next card, a Cleansing Nova for 3 and 2 white. So for 5 mana, we have a sorcery that either allows us to destroy all creatures or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Okay, this might as well say destroy all creatures. As always, in limited, board wipes, tier 1, you play around it, they don't know you got it, bam, you've killed all their stuff, and you happen to be not playing almost any creatures because you knew this was coming, and then they're always going to be at a card disadvantage, and that pushes you through.
I sure hope you know that was coming. Lena, Selfless Champion, 4 and 2 white. It's a 3/3 legendary human knight, and when he enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 soldier creature token for each non-token creature you control, which can be at least 1, and if you get like 4 or 3 of them, that's already a lot of power. And sacrifice Lena, creatures you control with power less than Lena's power gain indestructible until end of turn.
Yeah.
Which means you can attack, and if a lot of blocking will happen, you can sacrifice this and save nearly everything. And this is so good, and I think this will win on its own, because it will come in with an army of its own.
Yeah, I would especially like to use this on the defensive, because when you're attacking with a lot of small creatures, even giving them indestructible will probably not mean that you'll be killing their stuff. They will have survived, but still, and then they'll be tapped, and then people can attack. But it's such a great insurance policy, because once this is on the battlefield, you're using it defensively, they can attack, but you can multi-block, and then you can take down their biggest stuff and then sacrifice Lena, and then your stuff won't die, and you will have been able to kill their big stuff by multi-blocking. So it's going to be really nice. Totally tier 1. That is it for the rares. Let's have a look at the mythics.
Let's start the mythics with Resplendent Angel. 1 and 2 white. It's a 3/3 angel with flying. That's insane. 3/3 flyer for 3?
Crazy.
Sign me up. But that's not all. Because it's a mythic, it has more. At the beginning of each end step, if you gained 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. And how do we get that? For 3 and 3 white for 6 mana. Until end of turn, Resplendent Angel gains +2/+2 and gains lifelink. So it has everything on the card itself. It's good early because it's a 3/3 flyer, which means it's actually good late game with it also. But late game it will actually get bigger, it will get more angels.
Gives you life, brings you back in the game.
Great.
Perfect example of a card that's good early and it's good late.
Tier 1.
Amazing, amazing card. And the last of our mythics is Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants for 2 and 2 white. So for 4 mana, we get a 4 loyalty planeswalker. Its +1 is putting a +1/+1 counter on each of 2 target creatures, which is pretty sweet. Kind of like that. The -2 is return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from the graveyard back to the battlefield. We're playing limited. We're going to have a couple of low-costed converted mana cost 2 creatures anyway, which are going to be dying later, and we use them to block and protect Ajani.
But is it really that relevant?
It's not the thing that we want to be doing, but it is something that allows, we would be able to protect Ajani should we not have any other creatures. And that could be relevant. And the -7 is, of course, the game-winning ability, the ultimate, as they say. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, create 3 1/1 cat creature tokens with lifelink. Now, that is not the game-winning card effect that you would hope.
Is it not?
But I mean, it's very strong.
It will win you games. We thought the thing that attacks gets you 2 tokens every turn.
Don't misconstrue. Still tier 1. Still tier 1. Before anybody goes me thinking that it's a bad card. No, it's tier 1. This wins games. I just think that the +1 is where you're going to be getting most of the value out of this planeswalker. Just +1ing it, making sure every time 2 creatures get bigger and bigger, making sure 2 2/2s become 2 3/3s and then 2 4/4s is already insane. You activate this thing 2 times and then you've also pretty much already won the game. I think before you even get to the -7.
That's true, but still, that -7 will win you the game.
Also. But probably you've won already by then. All right, well, those are the mythics. Let's have a look at the conclusion. In conclusion, I am most disappointed in white out of all the colors. We've already actually, before we started filming, we've actually gone over all the colors, so we'll be able to see how their strength is relative to each other. And personally, I'm always in white. I'm looking for awesome removal. I'm looking for awesome evasion. I'm looking for a lot of smaller creatures with great abilities to be able to be as a good support color, as a second color perhaps. And I am only getting the good removal so far. We've got some solid removal in white. I'm really missing my good, cheap, common and uncommon evasion creatures, and I don't feel that the synergy with the knights, for example, is or that there's a strong enough token strategy to give white that meaty feel that is going to be able to be my primary color.
Oh, I only get good removal.
I just don't think that's enough. I just don't think that's enough. Especially, you may say, okay, white, good removal is good. Yeah, obviously good removal is good. But all the other colors have more than just one thing that they're good at.
Exactly, and normally we have a lot of good flyers, and we saw a couple good flyers, but in higher rarities, which means we won't really see them. And for the rest, it's actually really a bit lackluster. So, like David says, I agree with him. But still, good removal is good removal.
Good removal is good removal. You will probably still have it as a secondary color just to be able to make sure you've got those pacifism effects and exile effects.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be sad about it.
Yeah, but it's not your army, you know? It's not going to be the guys that are knocking your opponent out.
Then we just like also to get a flyer with it, just attack with it. And then that's all we need. We don't need a army. We need only a beater and removal.
Yes, which is what white is not great at in this set right now, I feel. All right, well, that is it for the white ones. We're gonna ask you right now to go also check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/budgetmtgdecks. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us support the channel and help us make more of these videos. And of course, we thank our current patrons a lot for making these videos possible. We really appreciate that. Also join us on the social media, so that is on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and we share candid pictures of us when we're playing games, which is like, we're just trying to do fun stuff. We're showing you non-budget upgrades for some of the deck techs that we're doing. And of course, we also, whenever we see a new card coming out, for example, then we're going to be previewing that as well on social medias. And of course, the best reason why you want to join us on social media is you can send us messages, and then you can talk to us, and you can ask us stuff, and you can tell us that we're wrong about these reviews, and that's fine. So you can just do that right there.
Yeah, that's the reason why.
That's the best way you should do it. You should also subscribe to us here on YouTube for the most powerful decks and advice everyone can afford. And if you do, don't forget to hit the little bell button, because then you'll be part of the notification squad, which is a fancy way of saying that whenever a new video comes out, you're going to be notified, and then you can be the first one to watch it. Yeah, that's not a bad reason. That is it. Thanks for watching. I'm David.
I'm Stefan.
This is Budget MTG Decks.